What's up everybody, Nelson Dellis here, 4-time USA memory champion. And in today's video, I'm gonna talk about how to keep information, lots of information, fresh in your mind for the long term. You guys ready? Let's get at it. Oh, and I'll be giving away one free premium membership to Drops, the Drops app that I've been using, to one of my viewers here. Watch till the end of this video and I'll explain to you how you can have a chance at winning that. All right, so as many of you know, I've been working on learning Dutch for the past almost 3 months. I had set out at the beginning of the year to do this 90-day challenge of memorizing 2,000 words in Dutch using this Drops app. And it's been great. It's been a bit overwhelming, but it's been an awesome challenge and I'm coming up at the 90-day mark. So I hit 2,000 words just a few weeks ago, and now all I'm doing in these last few days is review. Even though I have those words, I've learned those words, I need them to be accessible on the spot. Now, many of you may not be learning a language, some of you may be doing the challenge as well, but I'm sure there's something that you've studied for in the past or you plan on studying for where there's a lot of information. And while memory techniques are awesome because they get stuff into your brain really quickly, sometimes it feels like so much information, regardless of what memory techniques you use, is tough to really master when it gets past a certain size. So I figured I'd devote this video to explaining some tips that I can give you that will help you get that information that's in your head into your long term so that you actually know all 2,000 words or all of the things that you've previously memorized. All right, so starting with the obvious, this is almost like step 0. It's basically don't underestimate reviewing. So I've been learning all these words, as you may have been learning all sorts of information for a test or whatnot. And of course, you know you need to study, you need to go over what you just learned, but review is honestly where the magic happens when it comes to long-term memory. Unfortunately, I wish memory techniques were the end-all be-all, but if you want stuff to stay in your mind forever, you can't escape review. I just wanted to preface my upcoming tips that it starts with review. You gotta do what you gotta do. So my first tip is to learn new things or review what you've already learned in new and different locations each time you study. What I mean by this is typically you might have your office or your desk where you go to study, but what happens is it becomes the same thing. And what you can do by actually going somewhere else to study or to learn new information is you suddenly give that study session a little more oomph, a little more separation from the tedious norm that you may encounter by going to your study desk every day. And what that will do is the stuff that you actually study in that moment, in that new location, will actually become more memorable because of the situation you put yourself in. So I'm always on this Drops app trying to memorize. I usually do it while I'm in bed or kind of just hanging around on the couch or at the desk there. What I'll do is I'll make this effort to go to a coffee shop, or I'll go on the balcony, or I'll go downstairs or take a walk, and I'll learn more words or I'll study some of my words while doing that. And then what happens is later when I'm thinking about some of the things that I had reviewed that session, it's got this sudden extra context and it's suddenly more memorable because I'm like, oh, this is what I studied when I was doing X and while I was at Y. And it makes it a lot more memorable. All right, so my next tip is to have someone quiz you. Sounds pretty obvious, and well, while there are some apps that will help you review, actual flashcards, flashcard apps, in my case, the Drops app is a gamified version of review. Sometimes it helps to step away from that information, hand it to someone else and have them drill you, because they're not gonna know much about the information and they're not gonna know also how to quiz you in the way that you've been quizzed a million times before. So that actually will make you kind of be on your toes and have to kind of access the information possibly differently and again, more memorably. And also what happens is if you're studying with someone else and they're quizzing you, what might happen just kind of out of the circumstance is that they may quiz you on something and you may not know or you fumble about, and then there's some kind of maybe follow-up conversation about that word or definition that you're supposed to have known. That extra conversation about it will again enhance the memory of the thing you kind of flubbed on. All right, so my next tip here is kind of obvious, but I do have to say it as a tip on its own, and that is to talk about it. You know, when you get studying and you're just always kind of quietly by yourself, looking at papers, playing on an app, you can be great in the app, great on the paper, great with your flashcards, but when it comes to actually externalizing the information, maybe you're not so good. So talking about it to someone else, kind of explaining maybe something you learned, or something that you are trying to understand is a great way to kind of enhance the memory of that thing. This is called the Feynman technique, and it's based on this famous physicist, Richard Feynman. Awesome guy, you should read about him, one of my favorites. What the technique essentially says is that when you're learning something, trying to explain that to someone else is one of the best ways to see if you actually know what you learned. If you can explain it perfectly in your own words, obviously not from rote memory word for word, but in your own words, then chances are that it's probably strong in your memory and it's good to go. But what happens as you talk about it or explain it to someone, you might notice that there are certain parts of it that you really understand and certain parts of it that you don't quite fully understand. And that'll help you figure out which parts of what you study need more attention. So talk about it. All right, so the next tip is to split up your sessions. What I mean by that is sometimes when you go into study mode, you kind of say, okay, these are my allotted hours. I'm gonna sit down and study the heck out of my stuff, my information. While that's great and very productive, sometimes that can do harm to your actual mental state in terms of focus and in terms of effective reviewing. What studies have shown is actually by splitting up your study sessions into smaller bits, you can actually accomplish more. So actually every time you kind of take a break, your brain goes into this consolidation mode and it kind of organizes the information from the previous study session. And then when you come back, it's kind of got a leg up on what you're about to study. So what I like to do is I'll maybe study for increments of 25 to 30 minutes, then take a very short break, and then come back, maybe study something different for 20, 30 minutes, then maybe study something different for 25, 30 more minutes, take a break, and then I might return back to what I had studied the previous session. So it's not always the same thing back to back to back. I like to split it up. It does two things. One is it keeps things fresh, right? Studying the same thing for many hours can get really tiring, and then by the end you're doing more harm than you're doing good. By splitting it up, you make things fresh every time, and then by the time you come back to the thing you were studying before, it's a little more interesting and you have more focus to pay attention to it. Also, by splitting it up, again, like I said, it helps your brain consolidate the information, and so it'll stick more in the long run. I love this tip because I do it a lot and it actually does wonders for me, and that is to draw images for the stuff that you're trying to recall. Flashcards can be great, and if you want to do those, that's fine. I'm not saying draw your flashcards. All I'm saying is during your study session, have a notebook or a piece of paper, and the things that are kind of iffy, that you're not so sure about or kind of weak in terms of your recall, draw them out, like an actual image of them. I don't mean write down the word or the definition. I mean draw a picture. And if you want to even take it further, use colors. Color it in or add some shading. That act of drawing something out external to what is in your memory will make that more memorable. There's a recent study that said that if you draw things, you'll remember it better. And while that's not always the case, in this situation, I think that drawing out the things that you're weak on will actually help you remember them. I hope this video was helpful. I know a lot of you guys who watch my channel are studying something or trying to improve your memory, so this should help with things that you're trying to actually put in your brain for the long term. Please like, subscribe, even hit that little bell notification thing so you know when I have a new video coming out and it notifies you immediately so you can be the first to watch it. As an added bonus, Drops has been kind enough to give me one free full premium membership to give away to you guys. And I'm gonna give that one away to the first person to follow me on Instagram, @Nelsworth, and to also tag me in one of their stories explaining how you would use this app or are currently using this app. First person to do that, go. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. I'm out.